Now let's go over these different kind of farming system briefly. First, the biggest crop, livestock. They grow crops and use such as soybean and corn, and use corn as a feed to feed animals, especially cattle and cows, and sell livestock to the markets as a source of a profit. Many practice in a large area of America, especially the Midwest and Central Europe here. So this is kind of important farm system. The student here in Southern Illinois should be very familiar with. We go out of campus, immediately we see crop field, we see soybean field, we also see corn field. Actually, if I drive every day to my office, I drove by the soybean field and the corn field. So this is kind of a big, very typical picture the student in American Midwest would see. So this kind of farm machine, this kind of landscape is typical under the milk crop and livestock farming system. This is a map that shows the distribution of corn production. And America is one of the major corn producing countries, but in other parts of the world, you also have the corn producing farming system. In China, in places where it's not wet enough, in drier land, in hilly land, you don't have the constant supply of moisture to grow corn. Dairy farming is they produce fresh milk and other dairy products, and cheese and other variety of dairy products. Mainly they are in the location here, in this kind of location. This compared with other farm regions, the more northerly location, so kind of cooler climate, a cooler climate. So the short growing season, and especially for grain, and therefore they grow kind of a lot of animal feed, such as hay, to feed cattle, and to feed cow, milk cow, dairy cow, and they produce fresh milk and other dairy products. And so that is more appropriate for the physical environment. Also, given the market condition, you have a lot of big cities around this area that serve as the big market for fresh milk and dairy products. So it's the northeastern United States, southeastern Canada, and northwestern Europe. So that are the places where dairy farming is mainly practiced. So this is a picture to show a dairy farm in Great Britain that many cows can be milked simultaneously. It's kind of modern uh, dairy farm. And this is a slide that shows the milk consumption is a very uh, normal part of the diet in developed countries. But in recent decades, we see the rapid growth of milk consumption by developing regions. So that really gave a sense of a significance of dairy farming in international agriculture. And this is a map that shows the milk production by countries. So give us a sense of the U.S. and European countries, India, and all more major milk production nations. Grain farming is a large scale of grain production, especially wheat production. Here in the United States, we know that in the prairie, big plain, these are the places where far away from the humid zone on the east, so not as humid, but also it's not part of western dry climate. So the climate is just right to have a sufficient moisture to produce wheat in a big plain. And so in central and north central U.S., also part of Canada, and Eastern Europe. So that's where the wheat are grown. But here also in part of Australia as well. And so North America prairie, we know, is famous for its grain production. Every year, there's millions of tons of wheat exported from the U.S. to world market, and that's why it's called the world bread basket. And the name comes for a good reason. Okay. So this is a map that illustrates the wheat production. And China is also a major wheat production country, because in southern China, the major crop is rice. But in North China, wheat is more important. In North China, uh, the, uh, the growing season is shorter, and most importantly, uh, they do not have as much irrigation and precipitation as in southern China. So that's why the wheat production is the main crop in North China. Livestock ranching. This is a commercial grazing of livestock in the western United States. This dry land and part of Mexico as well. And here in Central Asia desert, in the desert of Australia, all these are places of uh, commercial ranching. Also in part of Brazil and Argentina. There's a semi-arid uh, kind of a plain uh, in Argentina, Patagonia plain as are the places where you see these kind of commercial ranching. That's part of the reasons that when we look at the agricultural map of Latin America, you see the coexistence of subsistence agriculture, as we talked about before, also the commercial agriculture. So here in Amazon basin, you see slash and burn agriculture, but in other places you see commercial agriculture. So you cannot really say that one farming system is only exists in developing countries or developed countries. Here in the context of Argentina and Brazil, you see the coexistence of commercial agriculture and subsistence agriculture, especially for the entire South America. You really cannot say that they only have commercial agriculture, they don't have subsistence agriculture, and that is not true. Okay. So the farming system that we use in our discussion is only kind of a convenience for presentation of materials. Here we see on the picture is a typical image of Western cowboy, and they herd the animals to the collection place. Here down the 19th century, they would herd the animals from their ranch to the train station, to then to be shipped to places where they have a slaughterhouse, the meat packing factories, and to the market. So that's also the form this basis of some folklore. This Western cowboy has become part of the culture, and also part of cultural symbol of Western United States. And this is a map that shows the distribution of meat production. And cattle mainly produced in North America, part of South America, and India. And then you can see in some poor land in Central Asia, sheep and goat, and seems to be the main, and Australia is the main form of meat. So that's this kind of farming system. Then we come to Mediterranean agriculture. We mentioned this before, that in Mediterranean area that surround Mediterranean Sea, Southern California, Central Chile, part of Southern South Africa, and part of Australia, because of the climate, They produce a variety of subtropical fruit, vegetables, and flowers, and so that's is typical of Mediterranean agriculture. This is the pictures that show one particular olive farm in Greece, and then you have this commercial gardening and fruit farming. They produce various kind of subtropical fruit and vegetable for fresh consumption, also for canning. Here you can see the southeastern United States. You have this kind of farming system here. And part of Australia here, the close to the urban areas, also have this kind of farming system. Yeah. And they also called it truck farming. And finally, plantation farming. This is a kind of large-scale commercial farming, mostly in subtropical and tropical areas. And they tend to specialize in one or two tropical or subtropical products for the international market. Okay. Sometimes those farms owned by the domestically, but sometimes owned by foreigners. Okay. Down the colonial areas, we know a lot of plantations owned by former colonial powers. But after many countries became independent, they have their own plantations as well. Okay. So in tropical and subtropical areas of Latin America, Africa, and Asia, you tend to see these kind of plantation. Here we see on this map, we see in the Mississippi Valley in the south, you have this plantation that produce rice. Okay. Also, you see in Central America and Caribbean region, you also see a lot of plantation. And in Southeast Asia, there's also a rubber plantation. Now here on this slide, you can see pictures of this soybean, and they destroyed the tropical rainforest and open the land for soybean production. Then you have this picture from Costa Rica. Now here you have this coffee plantation, and this plantation is interesting. This plantation actually is owned by rich people from the Middle East. They opened this plantation to produce fresh flowers, and every day they ship the flour from Costa Rica to the Middle East and sell in the market. So that is foreign-owned plantation in Costa Rica. So this is a slide that shows the food export. So in recent decades, we see the tremendous progress in agricultural technology, and that has caused a tremendous increase in food production. In addition, because of there are countries that really have the technology and the resources for food production. Therefore, they increase their production. Also, they increase the sale of food to countries that do not have as much good conditions in food production. So that makes the food export increase tremendously in recent decades. Here is a map that we can get a sense of the net food exporters versus net food importers. In general, countries in North America and South America, Australia, Southeast Asia, South Asia are the net food exporters. Countries of most of Asia, Europe, and Sub-Saharan Africa and Mexico are the net food importers. So that gives us a kind of interesting view of a country's ability to survive on their own food resources.